My name is Amara, and for the longest time, I thought I had the perfect life. I was 32 years old, married to a man I loved deeply. His name was Ryan. He was smart, good-looking, and full of charm. Everyone who met him liked him. When we walked into a room, people would say, "What perfect couple." But what people saw on the outside was not the full story. Ryan and I had been married for 6 years. In the beginning, everything felt like a dream. He would bring me flowers, write me sweet notes, and tell me that I was the only one for him. I believed every word. I used to be an artist. I loved painting, colors, emotions, and stories poured out of me onto canvas. It made me feel alive. But when Ryan started his business, he needed help. He told me, "Amara, I need you. I can't do this without you." So I left my art behind and helped him build his dream. I managed the accounts, the office, the staff, everything. I worked quietly behind the scenes, and he got all the praise. I didn't mind. I told myself this is what love looks like: sacrifice, support, teamwork. We lived in a beautiful apartment in the city. Expensive furniture, shiny floors, big windows. But slowly, the warmth began to disappear from our home. Ryan became distant. He came home late, always busy with work, always tired. At first, I thought it was stress. I cooked his favorite meals, asked if he was okay, and tried to talk. But he would just say, "I'm fine." Stop asking. Then he started spending more time on his phone, always locking it when I came near. Something inside me fell off. I told myself not to be paranoid, that maybe I was just overthinking. I even blamed myself. Maybe I wasn't doing enough. Maybe I wasn't interesting anymore. One night, I was doing laundry and found a hotel receipt in his jacket pocket. The name on it was clear. It wasn't near his office. It wasn't for a business meeting. It was for a weekend stay, for two. I felt my hands shake. I sat down on the floor, holding that piece of paper, trying to breathe. My heart knew the truth, but my mind didn't want to accept it. I didn't confront him right away. I needed to be sure. So I waited. I watched. I checked his phone one night when he was asleep, and what I found shattered me. Messages, photos, voice notes. And the worst part? It wasn't just with any woman. It was with Zoya, my best friend since college. The woman who used to come to our house, laugh with me, call me her sister. She was with my husband behind my back. I felt like the air had been knocked out of my lungs. The next morning, I sat at the table, holding my coffee cup, waiting for Ryan. When he walked in, I looked him in the eyes and asked, "How long has it been going on?" He didn't even try to lie. He just stared at me and said, "A while, and honestly, Amara, you were never enough for me." That sentence, it burned. I couldn't speak. I just stood there, frozen, as he walked away like nothing had happened. No guilt, no shame. Everything I had believed in was falling apart. My marriage, my friendship, my life. And worst of all, I realized something painful. I had lost myself somewhere along the way. In trying to be a good wife, I had given up my passion, my art, my voice. And now I had nothing left. Or so I thought. After Ryan confessed about the affair, everything changed. Our home, once filled with light and laughter, now felt like a cold, empty shell. He didn't even try to make things better. He packed a bag and left the same day, telling me he needed space. He didn't say sorry. He didn't ask how I felt. He just walked out like I meant nothing. I sat on the floor of our bedroom for hours, staring at the door. My body was still, but inside, I was falling apart. I didn't cry at first. I was too shocked, too numb. But that night, when I saw his toothbrush still sitting next to mine, the tears finally came. I cried for the love I gave, for the trust one lost, and for the woman I used to be. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my mind. Every smile, every hug, every lie. I wondered how long he had been pretending. How many nights had he come home from Zoya's arms and kissed me like nothing happened? But the betrayal didn't stop there. One morning, I got a call from the bank. The woman on the phone spoke gently, but her words hit me like a storm. "Ma'am, your joint account has been emptied. All transactions were made under your husband's name. I ran to my laptop and opened the banking app. The account showed zero balance. I felt dizzy. That money was not just his. It was ours. I had worked with him, helped him build the business, saved every rupee for our future. And now it was all gone. I called Ryan in a panic. He didn't answer. I called again and again. Finally, he sent me a message. You don't need the money. Just move on. Move on? Just like that? I rushed to the lawyer we had used years ago when starting the company. What I learned next made me feel even worse. Months ago, Ryan had made me sign some legal documents. I didn't read them carefully. I trusted him. He said they were just formal business papers. But they were not. Those documents had quietly transferred the business shares, the house, and even the rights to my artwork, all to him. Legally, I had nothing. I was now homeless, broke, and completely alone. When I told my family, they didn't believe me at first. My own mother said, "You must have done something to make him leave." Those words broke me more than the betrayal. My best friend, Zoya, the woman I used to laugh with, cry with, trust with my deepest secrets, had stabbed me in the back. She wasn't just having an affair with my husband. She was helping him destroy me. They had planned it. Together, Ryan got a new apartment. Zoya moved in with him. They posted pictures online like a happy couple, smiling like they had won something. And maybe they had my life. Meanwhile, I was sleeping on a friend's couch, wearing the same clothes for days, trying to figure out how to survive. People began to talk. Rumors spread. Some said I went crazy. Others said I was the one who cheated. Zoe was telling everyone that I was jealous and bitter because I couldn't handle Ryan's success. No one wanted to hear my side of the story. I had never felt so invisible. One night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror. I didn't recognize the woman looking back at me. Her eyes were tired, her hair messy, her face pale. But behind the sadness, I saw something else. Anger, not the kind of anger that destroys. The kind that wakes you up. I had spent years giving everything to people who gave nothing back. I had put myself last, thinking that's what love meant, but not anymore. That night, I made a promise to myself. I would not let them win. They took my money. They took my home. They took my name, my art, my peace. But they didn't take me. Not the real me. I pulled out my old suitcase and found my sketchbook, the one I hadn't touched in years. It was dusty, worn out, but still full of blank pages. I sat down, picked up a pencil, and began to draw. The lines were shaky at first. My hands trembled, but as the image formed, I felt something rise inside me, a quiet strength I had forgotten I had. It was a drawing of a woman, broken but still standing. Her heart was cracked, but her eyes were fierce. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't crying. She was surviving, and so was I. After everything happened, I felt like I had hit rock bottom. I had no money, no home, no family support. My so-called friends had disappeared. The people I thought cared about me turned their backs. I stayed at a small rental room that barely fit my suitcase and the few things I owned. It was cold, empty, and quiet, too quiet. Sometimes I would just lie on the bed, staring at the ceiling, asking myself, how did my life come to this? The loneliness was the hardest part. No one called to check on me. No one invited me out. I was invisible. Even worse, rumors spread about me. Some said I was unstable, crazy, or jealous. It was like being punished twice, first by the betrayal, then by the judgment. One day, while scrolling through social media, I saw pictures of Ryan and Zoya together. They were smiling, holding hands, looking happy. It felt like a punch in the stomach. How could they move on so easily? How could they live happily after hurting me so deeply? I wanted to scream, to cry, to do something, anything, but I was trapped in a fog of sadness and anger. My old life, my old dreams seemed so far away. I remember the art I once loved, the paintings I used to create with joy and passion, but it felt like a different person made those. I was too broken to paint now. One night, I sat on the floor with my old sketchbook. I looked at the blank pages and felt a wave of fear. What if I wasn't good enough anymore? What if my talent had died along with my happiness? But something inside me whispered, try. So I picked up a pencil and began to draw. At first, my hand shook. The lines were uneven and rough. But as I kept drawing, something changed. The fear began to fade, replaced by a small spark of hope. I drew a woman standing alone in a storm. Her hair was wild, her clothes torn, but her eyes were fierce. She was broken but not defeated. That woman was me. For the first time in months, I felt alive. Slowly, I started sharing my drawings online, but anonymously. I didn't want anyone to know it was me. I was afraid of being judged, afraid of being seen as weak. But the response surprised me. People liked my art. They sent messages saying how powerful and real my drawings were. They shared their own stories of pain and healing. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. One message stood out. It was from a woman named Eamon. She said, "Your art speaks truth. Don't stop. You are stronger than you know." Eamon was a gallery owner. She invited me to meet her and see her art studio. I hesitated but said yes. When I met Eamon, she wasn't like anyone I had known before. She was kind, patient, and encouraging. She didn't ask about my past or judge me. She just wanted to help me find my voice again. With her support, I began to believe I could rebuild my life. It wouldn't be easy, and it wouldn't happen overnight. But for the first time, I saw a way forward. I wasn't the woman I used to be, and that was okay. I was becoming someone new, someone stronger. After months of feeling lost and broken, I finally started to see a light at the end of the tunnel. My drawings, which I had shared online under the name A. Noor, were gaining attention. People connected with the emotions of my art: pain, betrayal, hope, and strength. I chose to stay anonymous at first because I was still afraid. I didn't want Ryan or Zoya to find out it was me. The thought of facing them again scared me. But as more people supported my work, I began to feel braver. Then came the day I met Eamon. Eamon was a gallery owner who had reached out to me after seeing my art online. When we met in her small but beautiful studio, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. "You have a powerful story, Amara," she said softly, "and your art shows it. You need to share it with the world." I wasn't sure if I was ready. What if people knew it was me? What if they judged me again? But Eamon's kindness and belief in me made me feel safe. She said, "You don't have to do this alone." With her help, I started to prepare for my first art exhibition. I worked hard, pouring every feeling into my paintings. I painted broken hearts, shattered dreams, and silent strength. I painted the story of a woman who lost everything but refused to give up. My followers grew and my art began to sell. People wrote messages telling me how my work helped them heal from their own pain. One evening, I sat in Eamon's studio, looking at a wall full of my paintings. For the first time, I smiled, not a fake smile, but one that came from deep inside. I was proud of myself. Meanwhile, I heard about Ryan through the news. His business was failing. Reports said he had been involved in illegal deals, and his company was being investigated. I didn't feel happy or angry. I just felt indifferent. Zoya had left him too, choosing someone richer and more powerful. I heard rumors she was trying to erase any sign of me from their lives. I realized they were both losing everything they tried to take from me. One day, I listened to a podcast where Ryan was being interviewed. He laughed as he mocked the artwork of A. Noor, not knowing it was mine. He called it childish and meaningless. His words stung, but they also gave me strength. If he thought I was weak, he was wrong. If he thought I was finished, he was wrong. I was just getting started. My exhibition day arrived. The small gallery was filled with people, artists, critics, and strangers who would follow my work online. The air buzzed with excitement and curiosity. I stood quietly in a corner, watching people look at my paintings. I waited for the right moment. When the gallery owner introduced me as the artist behind A. Noor, I stepped forward and took a deep breath. "This art is my story," I said. "It is about pain, loss, and betrayal. But more than that, it is about hope and strength. I want every woman who has been hurt to know that they can rise again." The crowd applauded. Some people had tears in their eyes. I felt a wave of love and support. that I hadn't felt in years. From that night, my life began to change. Galleries from other cities invited me to show my work. I was offered a contract to sell my paintings officially. I even started teaching art classes to women who had faced hard times. Just like me, I wasn't just Amara anymore. I was nor the woman who lost everything but found herself. Life has a strange way of balancing itself. What goes around comes around. And sometimes karma arrives when you least expect it. While I was building my new life, something was happening to Ryan and Zoya. Their world was crumbling, just like mine once had. Ryan's business started to fall apart. His company was under investigation for illegal activities. The news spread fast. People who once admired him now whisper about his crimes and lies. Banks refused to give him loans. Clients left. His reputation was destroyed. Zoya was no longer the glamorous woman she used to be. After taking everything from me, she found out what it was like to be abandoned herself. The rich man she left Ryan for didn't stay long. He was only interested in her money and status. She was left alone, humiliated, and forgotten by everyone who once called her friend. One evening, I saw a headline online: "Businessman Ryan Khan's empire crumbles amid scandal." I didn't feel joy or satisfaction, only a calm sense of justice. The man who had destroyed my life was finally facing the consequences. Around this time, Eamon invited me to host a special art exhibit at her gallery. This exhibit would be different. It was not just about my art, but my story. I decided it was time to reveal who Noor really was. The night of the exhibit was unforgettable. The gallery was filled with people, artists, journalists, and many who had followed my journey online. There was excitement and anticipation in the air. As I stood by my paintings, I felt a mixture of nerves and pride. This was my moment, not just to show my art, but to tell my truth. When I spoke to the crowd, I said, "These paintings are not just colors on canvas. They are my pain, my loss, and my strength. I am Amara, the woman who was betrayed, abandoned, and broken, but I chose to rise." Many in the crowd were moved to tears. Some shared their own stories of struggle and survival. The highlight of the exhibit was a pair of paintings I had created, one called "He Took Everything," and the other, "But I Took Myself Back." They were displayed side by side, telling the story of loss and redemption. Just then, I noticed a familiar face at the entrance. It was Ryan. He looked tired and worn down, nothing like the confident man I had known. His eyes were filled with regret, or maybe desperation. He stood quietly, watching the crowd and the paintings. After the event ended, Ryan approached me. I made mistakes," he said, voice low and broken. "I lost everything. Please, Amara, can you forgive me? I need your help." I looked at him without anger or fear. Instead, I felt peace. "You took everything from me," I said softly, "but you also taught me a lesson I needed to learn." That lesson was about strength, forgiveness, and moving on. I paused. "I'm not the person who needs to fix you. I'm the person who fixed herself." Ryan nodded slowly, tears in his eyes. He left quietly, knowing this chapter was over. That night, I felt a deep sense of closure. I had faced my pain, risen above it, and finally found freedom. Karma had knocked on his door, but it never needed to knock on mine. After the art exhibit and Ryan's unexpected visit, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. For years, my mind had been full of anger and sadness. I wanted revenge. I wanted him to suffer as much as I did. But as time passed, I realized that revenge only traps you in the past. True healing comes from forgiveness, not for their sake, but for your own. I forgave Ryan and Zoya, not because what they did was okay, but because I needed to free myself from their hold. Holding on to anger only made me feel heavy and stuck. Instead, I focused on myself. I returned to my art full time. My paintings became brighter, filled with hope and new beginnings. I traveled to small towns and cities, teaching women to find their voices through art. It was the most rewarding thing I had ever done. Slowly, I rebuilt my life, on my own terms. I rented a small studio apartment filled with sunlight and space for my creativity. I made new friends, people who loved me for who I was. I reconnected with my family, some with more understanding than others. Most importantly, I found myself again. One day, I stood in front of a large mirror in my new studio. I saw a woman who had been broken but was now whole, stronger, braver, free. I realized that losing everything was the hardest thing I had ever faced, but it was also the best thing because it made me rise. I was no longer the woman who needed anyone else to feel complete. I was my own person, powerful, independent, and full of life. Life will always have ups and downs. People will hurt you and things will break. But you have the choice to either stay broken or heal and grow. I chose to grow. And that is my story, not about revenge, but about closure. Not about hatred, but about love for myself. If karma knocked on his door, it was only because I had opened mine to a better future.